All right, this is the quick review, and it's transforming exponential functions. All right, so we have to know the pattern. The pattern is going to give us insight into the translation. This function will be translated h horizontally and k vertically. All right, let's look at the base model, right? Because we have a base of 2. So the base function would be y equals 2 to the x. Now I showed you the a value, h, and k values. So this has no translation, right? A 0 horizontally and 0 vertical translation. And it has no multiplier. The a is 1. So what does the base model look like? All right, to do that, we're going to need an XY chart. And so there are the values. Again, I subbed in. Just be careful on negatives, right? When you have here a -1, that means 2 to the -1, which is a 1 over 2 to the 1, or a half, right? And -2 is a 1 over 2 squared, or a 1/4. All right, here's a key thought. Remember, the asymptote will equal y equals the k value. So we have an asymptote of 0. All right, so here's the graph of that function. And here is our asymptote right here, right? That line of y equals 0. At infinity, the function will hit that, right? But it won't get there until infinity, always approaching that line. All right, so that's the base model. So in our function, we have the exact same a value, but we're translated 1 to the right, because h is 1, and 3 down, because k is -3. We also know that the asymptote, right, is y equals -3. Okay, so now I have an asymptote of y equals -3. So this is the line that the function is going to approach. Now, I can graph this by translating because I already have the original. Okay? Or I can graph it, if I don't know how to translate, I can just graph it with an XY chart. So let's do that with an XY chart. Okay, so in this one, always nice to use 0, right? It's usually where students start. 2 to the 0 minus 1, -3. All right, be careful. That's 2 to the -1. That's a 1/2. A 1/2 and a -3 is a -2.5. So we have a point at 0, -2.5. If I use a 1, I get 2 to the 1 minus 1. That's 2 to the 0, and that's a 1. 1 minus 3 is a -2, and I get the point 1, -2. A 2, again, 2 to the 2 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus 3 is a -1. If I use a 3, I get 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 3 is a 1, and I get 3, 1. And really, I can keep going, but I already know where the function is, right? I can see it. It approaches that asymptote, and it goes up like that. Now, here's the translation. Watch. We know that we are translated how much? And oh, by the way, the asymptote was -3. We know that we're translated 1 horizontally, right? This value right here, and 3 vertically down. So 1 to the right and 3 down. So watch the original. All right, so watch me right here. I'm at this point. Go from this point 1 to the right and 3 down, and guess what? You hit our function. Go to the next point. Go 1 to the right and go 3 down. There's that point. Go to the next point. Go 1 to the right and 3. Are you getting the point here? There's that point. Go here. Go 1 to the right and 3 down. There's that point. You see how the function is translated 1 to the right and 3 down? All right, that's the concept. That's the idea. And remember, if you don't remember how to translate, anything can be graphed using an XY chart, but you have to remember the shape, and you have to be on the lookout for the asymptote. All right?